Hello everybody, welcome to the Dakman Productions studio. Today we're not going to talk about Conahee Rail. Instead, for this video, I'm doing a Dakman Productions podcast, which I haven't done in a long time. Normally I reserve podcasts for what's going on in my life or within Dakman Productions and explain things. So this podcast is going to focus on in memory of Danie Alvero of Rolling Stock Trains. So I was saddened to learn that Danie Alvero, owner of the Rolling Stock Trains, which was a G-scale dealer, he was a USA Trains dealer. He sold LGB and also a lot of used trains for the second-hand market. And he would go to different train shows and stuff. And I haven't heard from him in a while, because, I left the G-scale world in 2015. So, life gets busy, and I got busy with O-Gauge. And so we would just occasionally send emails back and forth. He would ask me questions and advice on some G-scale collector's pieces. And I haven't heard from him in a long time, and I was sitting around my living room thinking, I haven't heard from Danie in a while. And I looked on the Rolling Stock Trains website, and it said they weren't accepting orders. I'm like, something's not right. So I researched online and found out that Danie had actually passed away in April of 2023. And, unfortunately, that was the way I found out. And it was, it shocks you when something like that happens. So, a little bit of history of Danie Alvero, Rolling Stock Trains, and Dakman Productions. For those who don't know, I got out of O-Gauge trains back in 1988. And then got back into the hobby of model trains in 2000, only when I did it was in G-scale. Between 1988 and 2000, I got myself into the hobby of show cars. I restored a couple of show cars, took them to shows, won trophies. So one thing I liked about the car show hobby was attending and seeing the other cars and winning trophies. The downside of that was the internal cliques or the clubs within the clubs and the politics and all that stuff. So I got tired of it and jumped out of it in 2000. And I was done with people for a while. I had enough. And I got into the G-scale hobby in 2000. Collecting G-scale trains. They were actually down here in this basement. There was trains everywhere. I'll post a couple pictures as I'm talking about it. But yeah, I actually spent time in my basement just concentrating on fixing it up because there was no walls down here. So it was quite some time before I was saving money here and there to finish the basement and create a G-scale layout in the basement at the same time. Because in New Jersey, your ability to run outside, which is what G-scale is actually meant for, is very little. You got the heat, the humidity, then you had bug season. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to build a G-scale layout inside my basement and I can be able to run it at any time. It wasn't until about 2007 that I decided to, okay, I think I'm ready for people again. So yeah, 7 long years in my own basement just doing what I wanted to do and didn't really care what anybody else was doing at the time. So in 2007, I started to join forums and actually subscribe to magazines. I found a Garden Railways magazine, subscribed to that. Some flea market I was visiting, and I'm like, okay, and I paged through it, and there was they were advertising the East Coast Large Scale Train Show. So in 2009, I went to that. Was my first one, and that was it. When I hit, that was my very first train show. Believe it or not, was 2009. And I was like blown away. I'm like, wow, this is a train show? I couldn't believe it. It was great. It brought me back out of that, I guess, that little depression era that I was in after the car show hobby. And it threw a spark in me, and it got me excited all over again. So in 2009, saw that, and I started shooting pictures and stuff. And people on the forums like, well, you want to see more pictures? We want more. I'm like, okay. And 2010, I shot a whole bunch of photos. And then 2011, the official videographer of the East Coast Large Scale Train Show actually stopped attending. And so I got into doing some video as well. During the course of all this, shooting videos and stuff, I had a huge interest in USA Trains, which is manufactured by Charles Rose Supply in Malden, Mass. Yes, the same Lionel dealer was producing, or still is to this day, G-scale garden-sized trains. And how he came about doing that is there was a year that Lionel had moved manufacturing from one country to another. There was a time period they weren't manufacturing anything. So Charles Rowe Sr. Hit the panic button, thinking that there wouldn't be any Lionel trains to sell, and he would have some dead space there. He decided to get into manufacturing G-scale trains originally under the name of Rowe Trains in 1988. And then he went ahead and about 1990 he changed the name to USA Trains. Well, since I didn't get into G-scale trains until 2000, there was that gap of a time period that I was trying to find previous stuff that was made. It was near impossible to see what USA Trains had made because they didn't catalog everything. Yes, they made catalogs, but not everything made it to the catalogs, especially a lot of the custom runs and even in-house runs. There was a lot of trains that never made it to their catalogs. And so I was actually the very first one ever to document everything that USA Trains had made in G-scale from 1988 up until 2015. I documented all the custom runs, all the regular runs. I could tell you the stock number, the years they were made, and how many were made. Any product that USA Trains had made, and it was all in a database that I had created. So that idea kicked off of cataloging USA Trains products began on a website called the Train Board, and my username was EMD Trainman. And under EMD Trainman, I created a post called the USA Trains G-Scale Registry. Well, it got so huge with all the information that I was creating, so forth and so on. I met a couple wonderful people on there who helped out as well. We decided, since we outgrew that post, it was good to move it to a group. And we moved it to a Yahoo group, which at the time was a great group. Based on like a Facebook sort of thing or a forum. So I created the USA Trains G-Scale Registry on Yahoo. We actually had a guy by the name of Pete Dalberg who was our videographer. He took all the pictures. I did all the research, and then that actually outgrew itself. Yahoo groups is you can only have so much megabytes of information or gigs or whatever have you. So I decided to create a website called the USA Trains G-Scale Enthusiast Group, and it was based on a PHP board type of website. I brought aboard a guy by the name of Ben Shell who helped out running the website. So now there was three of us involved in doing this, and it was just it just expanded and grew, and we had members and everything else, and that's where I met Danie. Danie became a member of the USA Trains G-Skill Enthusiast group because Danie Alvero of Rolling Stock Trains was himself a huge USA Trains enthusiast as well, and he wanted to see what was made just like I did so he could have it for his collection. As time went on, Danie decided to come out to the East Coast Large Scale Train Show with Rolling Stock Trains and to sell stuff. And he had already seen that I'd been there and I was doing these videos and photos. And that's when Danie sent me a message through the email asking me, "Hey Sean, how would you like to be sponsored by Rolling Stock Trains and be part of the Rolling Stock Trains sales staff?" I'm like, "That's perfect." He says that gets you behind the scenes a day early to shoot all the photos and videos of people setting up and what they have. And that's what I did in 2013. So 2013, 2014, and 2015, Rolling Stock Trains had sponsored Dakman Productions going to the East Coast Large Scale Train Show in York, getting me behind the scenes a day earlier. And even at that point in time, Danie had seen my previous work of photos and a couple of videos that I had made from the past East Coast Large Scale Train Show, because I took pictures all the way up until 2010 and I didn't start shooting videos until 2011. And Danie saw the importance of, even back then, he's seen the importance of train shows being shown on social media, bringing the vendors and the train shows and the clubs to social media. He's seen that at that point in time that was something important, and he supported me 100% on doing this. And I'm so glad that he did. I didn't get into, I wish I did, but I didn't really get into doing like train show videos at that point in time. But what I did instead is I took photos of what the vendors had and what they were selling, and then I would post them in the forums. And they were a little skeptical and not understanding why I did it at first, but Danie saw the future in this, and he already knew this was going to be the way to go to promote the hobby and to get sales. And as I was sponsored by Rolling Stock Trains in 2013, by 2014, the vendors had seen their sale. They got sales from the previous show through my photos. So they were a little bit more understanding by the time 2014 came around. And they're like, "Hey, Sean," or "Hey, Dakman, how would you like to, can you photo my booth," or whatever have you. So then they were a little bit more understanding that, hey, yeah, we're getting sales through these photos. And so that's how I progressed. And it was with Danie's encouragement and support that kept me driving to do it. Because he knew that, like I said, the social media was going to be the future to promote our hobby, the clubs, and even the vendors. And if it wasn't for him and his support, I probably wouldn't be doing train show videos, tour videos today, because that's how I eventually, progressed from taking photos to going to video as far as the show. Now, I've always taken videos of clubs running their trains, but I wasn't sure, at that point in time back then, if the vendors would be comfortable with videos, so I took photos instead. So by the time 2015 came around, that would be my last show being sponsored with Rolling Stock Trains, Danie decided not to return after 2015. I was getting out of the G-scale hobby anyway in 2015 and going back to O-gauge again. And so in 2018, there's a show event called the National Garden Railway Convention. So the National Garden Railway Convention, it's spread around. The clubs had to put in that they want to host it. In 2018, the Georgia Garden Railway Society got picked to host that convention. Well, Danie, at the time, just so happened to be the president of that club. So, once again, he got a hold of me and said, "Hey, Sean, how would you like to shoot video of the National Garden Railway Convention, be the official videographer?" I'm like, wow, that's a huge undertaking, I know. But I accepted. And so, once again, Rolling Stock Trains sponsored me. Danie brought me aboard for the 2018 National Garden Railway Convention as the official videographer, and that was the first time I've ever shot video for the NGRC, or National Garden Railway Convention, ever. it was a huge undertaking. After 2018, Danie just did a couple shows here and there, and then he didn't return back to the East Coast Large Scale Train Show, so we just kept in contact through my email. So again, after I didn't hear from Danie for a while, I'm like, wow, it's been a while since I heard from Danie. Usually I hear something. And I didn't hear anything, couldn't get a hold of him. And researched the internet, and I found his funeral listing, unfortunately. And, it shocks you when you see something like that. You're not expecting it. Danie was the greatest guy I ever met. He, encouraged me, he supported me, sponsored me. I couldn't ask for a better person, actually. He was really good. I really don't have much more to say other than, this video is in memory of him. I'll never forget my roots. No matter how big I get, I've always said this. Whether you get to 500 subscribers, or 2,000, or 5,000, or 10,000, 100,000, 500,000, whatever it is, don't ever forget how you started off and the people who supported you along the way. And Danie, this is for you. Again, thank you for watching the Dakman Productions podcast, and a little bit of background history between Dakman Productions and Rolling Stock Trains and Danie Alvero. Rest in peace, buddy. Goodbye.